This is the Apex Bros Podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Apex Bros Podcast. I'm your host, Leander, as always, with the boy Max and the boy Rob. Rob's a little bit under the weather, but, well, not a little bit, a little bit, kind of. But he's good enough to graciously grace our podcast with his voice today. So, big thank you, as always, to Victory Fuel. They have a new flavor that just released called Purple Potion. Go check that out at drinkvictory.com and use the promo code APEX10 at checkout. That's APEX10. We'll start our podcast by looking at our prediction results from last week. We'll start with me, of course, since I'm first on this graph here. My meme pick was John Hunter Nemechek, and I successfully lost with John Hunter Nemechek. So yeah, that was great, and it was a very, very meme pick. But my other meme pick, but I kind of had a good feeling about him, was Taylor Gray, and he had a great finish in the truck race that happened at Richmond, and I forgot where he finished. I think he finished top 5, and he actually
There was one point where he was actually in position to beat
leading.
us in the trucks pick, which was actually crazy to think about. That Taylor Gray of all people could have had Leander the win for this week.
Yeah, well, he did actually
did it
win
trucks.
me. Yeah, he
He
won
did
me.
trucks.
Oh, he did.
Yeah,
Okay.
he won me truck.
He beat Figure by 1 point.
Oh, that's
by
right.
position.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Taylor Gray took me to the promised land. Give that man a JGR seat. We'll talk about that later.
Hey Max,
Yeah,
was it Heim time?
it was not Heim time. Yeah, I should probably stop picking him.
and
He says
the
that
same
about
thing,
everybody.
and the same thing with Denny Hamlin.
Same thing. Well, he finished second, so I beat you guys there. So I don't think that's I think that was lucky with that one, the way the caution fell. But yeah, I'll stop picking Hamlin now. He got a good enough finish for me to stop picking him. So I'll let him. I'll let him
the
rest.
guy who won overall this weekend was me.
Somehow.
Oh, great showing by Rob here. It was definitely a battle between Max and Rob. They were going fighting tooth and nail, but Rob with the good old Larson pick
If
was.
only I had picked anyone but Heim, I probably would have
yeah,
won.
anyone but Heim. If you picked Eckes, you would have won.
Yeah.
So no, fourth and seventh respectively was good enough to.
Second
Yeah.
and wherever the hell Heim finished was not good enough.
16th, I think.
Jeez.
Yeah, 16th.
Yeah, I'm
Oh,
done
God.
picking him.
He finished behind Matt Crafton, dude. You're never picking this man
Bro,
again.
yeah, I'm never.
Corey Heim, we
Yeah.
love you. Please come on the podcast. But yeah, Rob won this week for predictions. We got to get a scoreboard for this.
Ever since
It's two in the last 3 weeks.
Ever since Pocono for Heim, it's never been the same.
Yeah. Hey, but
we picked Heim that one time, and that was it.
Yeah, I can proudly say that I won the hardest week for predictions, which we had everything on.
I guess, yeah.
But I will never live that down. All right. But yeah, so good predictions from us, except for the John Hunter Nemechek pick, but that we knew was a failure at the beginning. So we'll move on to our F1 segment. All right, so for our F1 news, there's not much news. It's literally written on our notes here. Not much news. As it happens with the F1 summer break, it's just silly season stuff and the odd. Every year we just get a Sebastian Vettel's coming back rumor with Audi.
It's kind of
thing.
like the NFL and hearing Colin Kaepernick coming back each year.
But at least we want Vettel back.
Yeah,
at least we want Vettel back.
It's the F1 equivalent of that.
I guess you could compare it to Brady instead. Brady saying, "Oh, I could still come back and rock with these guys."
I don't know, but anyways.
But yeah. So again, the rumor is Vettel to Audi. That's probably not going to happen. But Valtteri Bottas, our Finnish American Australian guy, he's likely the signing for Audi. He was just filming with a certain company, unnamed company, driving an Audi R8. So that was fun to see that that car back on track. Palou has also been linked with Audi, but he says it's false. We'll talk about that in the IndyCar segment. And Gabriel Bortoleto, the F3 champion, now in F2, fighting for that championship. Stumbled the last couple of weekends, but he's been doing good, and he would be a good choice as well. McLaren Academy driver. But yeah, that's pretty much the roundup for F1. No news on Newey because, well, the only news on Adrian Newey is he's not going to Ferrari. We kind of knew this, and Lewis's basically crew chief Bono is not moving to Ferrari with him, and will stay probably with Kimi Antonelli, who will be announced at the Italian race coming up soon. But the big news in F1 kind of ties in with NASCAR and IndyCar technically because he ran the Indy 500 this year. Kyle Larson versus Max Verstappen. There was a lot of discourse on the good old Twitter/X, and I think Instagram as well because they're posting it everywhere. I even saw Red Bull Racing Daily, the very popular Red Bull account post, and then yeah, the F1 elitists found out Larson talked his shit. So yeah, I'll ask everybody here, including myself, the question: Who is the best driver in the world currently?
Very close. I think I saw Gary Owen comment this on the post that Larson is a very close second. Um, and not to discredit Larson or anything, like Larson, like if you put Verstappen and Larson um head to head uh in a dirt race, Larson's gonna wipe Verstappen off the map. Like it's he's not even gonna be anywhere close to Larson's speed or whatever. And if Larson goes to Verstappen's kind of wheelhouse, Verstappen's probably gonna outdo Larson. But I think the majority of the racing world like series, I think Larson has the upper hand because I feel like Max is only able to do F1, maybe IndyCar, and then sports car stuff. I don't think Larson can or Verstappen can do really anything else. And when it comes to Larson, Larson's background comes from
Versatile.
yeah, it's
He's
a lot more
versatile.
versatile. He's done IndyCar, albeit the Indy 500. He's done NASCAR. He's done dirt racing. He's won the Rolex 24 Hours. I just feel like Larson's skills are a little bit more, like Leander just pointed out, a lot more versatile than Verstappen because Verstappen's only done F1 and then a couple of sports car races,
GT
and that's it.
cars, yeah.
Yeah. And whereas Larson's done like I don't know how many races in total
Everything.
in
He's done
total
everything.
since 2022 being, driving for Rick Hendrick and being, able to do whatever he wants pretty much. But yeah, it's crazy. I think the best way to settle the debate would be doing what they did for I think what was it?
ROC, Race of Champions.
Yeah, Race of Champions. Yeah. With
When
how
our good
Edwards
old Carl Edwards beat Michael
ratioed
Schumacher.
Michael Schumacher. Yeah,
Uh,
I think we ought to do that to settle the debate. I think either that or just do World Grand Prix like in Cars 2, just without
Facts.
the all in all debacle. But I think have the world's best drivers duke it out in different tracks. I think that's the best way to go about it. I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
So, ironically enough, I found a website where it actually takes the top racing drivers in all different series around the world, and it puts them into a database, and it has an ELO rating. So, believe it or not, Kyle Larson's not even in the top 20 of the top 100 best drivers, according to this
Interesting.
database.
Which and
Shane Van
who's the top
Gisbergen
five?
is the highest NASCAR driver on this list.
What? Oh yeah,
Hey, I mean,
because
you
he's
can make an argument that
Australian
McLaughlin.
supercar stuff.
You can make an
So,
argument that McLaughlin and Van Gisbergen are actually the most versatile drivers.
so
But
obviously
sure.
the top five guys are all F1. Verstappen, Hamilton, Perez, Leclerc, and Sainz are the top five. So notable names on here. Scott Dixon is ninth.
Okay.
I honestly would have expected
Uh,
him to be a couple of spots higher, but okay.
Dixon's ninth. Let's see. Alex Palou is 14th.
Wow. Okay. I don't know that one.
Kyle Busch is 34th.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Kyle Busch. Dennis Hamlin is 43rd.
yeah,
Oh.
yeah. It's
I
expected.
see. Number one, why is Perez in the top five?
Yeah, Perez
I'm
should not be
sorry,
top
but
five. He should be where
that
Scott Dixon
throws the
is.
list out the window.
Yeah, they should put
But
Perez wherever Dixon is or whatever.
yeah,
Something.
or even lower to be honest. But I will say, I saw Kensethology, my buddy on Twitter, say, you could add McLaughlin and SVG into this best driver in the world competition because
And
they,
McLaughlin is 17th, so he is higher than Larson on this list.
yeah. And where's SVG?
12th, actually. He just lost a spot to Kavan Astray.
Okay. So yeah, I think they could also be in the discussion, but I don't know. I think the websites like that, the rankings, they put too much importance on F1 and
How dare they
So,
leave out
well,
Mark?
it's basically
How dare they leave out
it,
NASCAR legend Marcus Ambrose out of the list?
how yes.
How
Well,
dare
this is
they?
so
active, I
it
think. He's
basically
active.
it's
Yeah.
basically an average rating for the last 20 races of the driver. So they each start out with a rating of 1500.
Okay, but I'm not
So
I'm not gonna lie. Last 20 races of Verstappen, like barring the last five, the other 15 he's basically won. So I don't know. I feel it's kind of skewed.
It's very
but
Like I'd rather
it's all
have like
subjective.
a driver
mathematical.
rating
It's
thing.
all mathematical. It's not championships are ranked or graded, so it's all mathematical.
Hmm.
Yeah, I still think there should be a better ranking system. Like I know the FIA has one. They just don't put it out to the public, but I
Yeah.
know I know they have I think it was Larson, Verstappen, Van Gisbergen, and McLaughlin and Dixon, I think, who are platinum on the for the FIA. So that means they're in the tippy top of the drivers there. So hey, I'm down to see all five of them get in there and do a Rolex against each other. That'd be fun as hell.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah, or just a regular like sprint race for IMSA or like in WEC or something. Just like even the playing field. Verstappen doesn't really do GT racing. Larson doesn't really do GT racing. So just put both of them in there and see what happens. I know it'll be a really aggressive race. With those two, I don't know what the hell is going to happen. They might end up flipping both of each other, but um, yeah, it's definitely a debate to have, and I haven't like heard a debate as crazy as this since Alonso versus Tony Stewart back in the 2000s. That was a big debate back then,
Yeah,
and
and then
that
we
was
talked about the early 2000s.
I
Gordon,
I have
Gordon and
that
Juan
yup,
too.
Pablo.
I have yeah,
yup.
the ride swap. We should do they should do that with Larson Verstappen.
Oh yeah, for sure. That would be really interesting.
So
Oh, but
like
wait, no, I
They
think
should do,
Verstappen's sponsored by Mobile One, so it's got to be a Mobile One
what if it's like
car.
they do like Coda?
2311, sign them up right now.
Okay. What if it's not
they
like
they
Coda?
could or Sonoma. Sonoma would be
Yeah,
interesting
but
because they've done it at Watkins Glen and they've done it
but
at
F1
Indy.
I don't think F1's
Yeah,
ever
true.
raced at Sonoma. I feel like it's
No,
gotta
no,
be a
like
I feel like it's gotta be a
they haven't
track
had
at
a
like the
driver swap there because
I
they've done it
know
at Glen, Indy, and then Bahrain. But
well
Maybe
technically
they could do it for like the Chicago Street Course. That would be kind of
technically they've
cool.
already done it
yeah,
for Coda because they had Stuart Haas with like Magnussen and Tony Stewart.
yeah,
But
and
they
I
never
was it
ride
Hulkenberg at the
swapped.
time? Was it
I think
Hulkenberg
so.
or was it?
Because Stewart did it twice.
20
Yeah, yeah,
it
yeah.
was 2017, wasn't it? 2017. Try to
Because
remember
I think
the
Stewart
it
had
was
one like
like
20. Stewart had one in 2010 or 2011. I remember that because
yeah,
it was at Watkins
it
Glen.
was 2011, so it was like yeah.
oh, it was Mick Schumacher in 2022. Oh wait, no. What?
It was
Hold on.
2017 with Stewart and Haas and Magnussen. I'm trying to remember
No,
the other two.
2020. Let's see.
It might have been Hulkenberg.
There was a
Eventually,
diecast released for this, but
Yeah.
I'm trying to like. No, no, it was the new Mustang body. So hold on. Oh, it was Grosjean. Uh, Magnussen and
Oh,
Grosjean
that's
at
right.
Coda.
So it was 2019 then.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know why I thought
So,
2017. That was weird.
well, 2017 was when Magnussen came into the team, I think.
Yeah.
Or no, he was still at Renault. I don't know. But yeah, yeah. So that's a great debate to have, and I pray that they have a ride swap, or they can 2311 can get Project 67 back on track, get Max Verstappen in the car for an off week. But yeah, that'll do it for our F1 segment, and then we'll be moving on to IndyCar.
All right. Thank you, Leander, for passing off the baton to IndyCar. See what I did there with the little Olympic reference there with the baton. But anyway,
Passing the torch.
thank you, yeah, for handing it over to the IndyCar portion. So first off, we're gonna be talking about a lot of driver changes and some interesting takes on the driver market, I guess. There's a lot of
Silly season.
yeah, silly season seems to be impacting IndyCar more than any other series right now, except for NASCAR. NASCAR is probably taking the cake on that one. But before we get into like all the silly season for IndyCar, we gotta start off with a little cool piece of news. I think it was last week. Sebastian Weldon won in a photo finish in the USF Juniors Racing Series by 0.045 seconds, so that's like 45 hundredths of a second or thousands. I don't know how they say it, but seeing like his performance, I guess Leander and I can have this discussion. Seeing his performance in the USF Juniors and his I guess claim to fame so far or whatever it is, his rise to fame. I guess you could say. What do we expect from young Weldon?
Man, he's he's in that Andretti and what is it, Andretti Global
Pipeline.
driver development.
Yep.
Yeah, dude, he's set. I
Mm-hmm.
think they're gonna keep Ericsson in that car, and then they're gonna try and get Seb up there, and he's gonna be pretty much the next goated Seb. I have high expectations for this young dude. I think he can really be a force. I used to say the same thing about Colton Herta, and he's finally showing it this season. Finally broke through for the perfect weekend, but I think Seb can really succeed, especially as he gets higher in the ranks. I think whenever he does get to Indy next, he'll light the field on fire. I think he definitely gets a win in his rookie season. I think. Um, but yeah, I really do think he has a bright future ahead of him. And Max, you can attest to this. Like he has been very impressive, especially in that race with the photo finish.
Oh yeah, I mean, kid's been like a driving like a maniac, but like smart. Like he's been good. Like he's been like head and shoulders above all the other drivers in that series. Like it's crazy how fast like he's been able to um, grow, not only like you know driving wise, but also just like skill wise too. Like being able to uh, time the run perfectly for that photo finish. It takes a lot of skill and talent that some of these young guys don't have yet. And the
And a
fact
lot of
that,
patience too.
yeah,
A lot of
and
patience.
I mean, we saw in like the Lionheart documentary, like that's something like they probably struggled with like early in their career, like in the go karting at that time. This was like a couple of years ago. Um, and to see him like just being able to mature more racing wise and being just faster and getting more consistent and like you said more I guess careful and more patient is really just like shows how good he's gonna be in the future when he gets to NXT and then eventually the IndyCar roster. I think this kid's going places and I think he's definitely a future IndyCar champion in the making right now.
Yeah, and hey, watch out for his little brother. He's he gonna be
Yeah,
joining him in
Oliver.
like a
Yeah.
couple years.
Mm-hmm.
Ollie's gonna be getting up here soon, and he's damn good too. Yeah, Andretti's got some good youngins there.
Yeah.
Gamebridge
Sebastian's only
W from them.
Sebastian's only third place in the USF Juniors point standings, and I think he's so second place is 40 points behind the leader, and then Sebastian Weldon, he's I want to say 45 points, 46 points behind second place. So, or no,
And he's
he's
only
45.
15 doing this.
Yeah, he's only 45 points. I mean, from the leader in points. But yeah, he's only 15. He's like insanely young, and being this competitive is insane still. But to move on from that, we're gonna be getting into the main portion of the discussion in IndyCar, which is the silly season. So, as we documented last episode, Augustine Canapino is out of his ride for the rest of the season at Juncos Hollinger Racing, and like I predicted last week, Connor Daly is set to finish the remainder of the season for that 77 car for Juncos Hollinger Racing. And the question I want to ask Leander, and we'll elaborate on this, is what do we expect from Connor Daly, considering his experience and consistency on ovals, and that's his strong suit? What do we think that the last 5 races of the season being, or last five, four? I don't
Four
know.
out of five.
Yeah, last
4 out of 5.
four.
Right.
Yeah, last
Yeah.
4 races of the season being ovals. What do we expect from them?
Yeah, I mean, so we can't base his performance off of the Dale Coyne car that he had, and because that was a last minute deal. Yeah, we got what Gateway, Milwaukee, and then Nashville. So yeah, I think realistically, right, you would hope for top 10, but the brain is saying top 15 to top 20.
Yeah,
And
with
I
this
think he
car.
can get, yeah, I think he can get a top 15 out of it. I think he can, especially at Gateway. He's done good at Gateway before. He's had top 10s in a Carlin car. I mean, he can get it done on ovals, right? The only worrisome spot is Portland, where the last time he started there, he finished 25th in the 20 car. But
What year was that?
I think
Was that
I think that
22?
was 2022. Yeah.
That was the race I went to.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah, I remember they retired the car because there was something wrong with like the engine or something. But yeah,
Yeah. But yeah, I think and of course his last gateway race was in 2023 in the 30 for RLL. Rahal Letterman Lennigan.
yeah, no tongue tie there for you at
Yeah,
least.
yeah, for sure. But yeah, he finished 16th at Gateway. So I think a top 15 is possible. I'd assume that a Chevy powered car is better on a oval like Gateway. So I think he can get top 15 realistically. Milwaukee, I think he'll do a little better there because everyone's kind of on an even playing field. Actually, no, he didn't get a test there, did he? He didn't get to test
No,
at
he only
Milwaukee, right?
tested Gateway.
Yeah, so maybe not. Maybe he'll do a little bit worse at Milwaukee, but I think Nashville he'll be good at. He seems to be good at those
Yeah,
super speedways.
those
So
like those small ovals, short
yeah,
ovals
yeah.
like
So
Iowa.
yeah, shorter ovals. I think like Milwaukee. I think Daly will get top 20, and then Gateway and Nashville. I expect a top 15, and then Portland bring the car home in one piece essentially.
Yeah, I think for the doubleheader at Milwaukee, I can definitely see Connor finishing better in the second race just because he'll have the experience from the first race down and out of the way. He knows how to drive the car, but then again, the track the track is going to be different because it's going to be later in the evening, I believe, for the second race. But I mean, if we look at how he performed in Iowa, it shows good signs to come for Daly in that car. But I feel like a safe bet for Daly for the ovals for the rest of the season pretty much is top 15. I think that's the safest bet you can put on him for the rest of the season. But heading on to points for IndyCar, is it time to panic for the top 5 in point standings to close in on Palou with five races remaining, 4 of them being out of ovals, like we just mentioned. I believe I saw Will Powers comment earlier on X or on like a news article saying that it's ovals is pretty much anyone's game because it's kind of like a wild card race. With this car, it's all strategy based, so it's gonna be really important to make sure you watch the undercuts, overcuts on some drivers. Here it is. This is from the Full Oversteer website. He explains. So he's basically just saying like the Gateway Oval IndyCar race is very situational and it's anyone's game, in his words. And it's kind of like one of those. It's like NASCAR's plate racing. It's a race that anyone can win. You can have like a wild card come out of the woodworks and pull and steal a victory. And so, what do we think from Will Power to Colton Herta? What do we think they got to do to try and close it on Pelot, considering how Pelot has been on ovals this season and in history in IndyCar for Pelot?
Man, so let me give you a rundown real quick on his last few oval starts. Of course, we had the Iowa doubleheader. He got P2 in the second race, and he wrecked out from I think P5 on the first race. Of course, we had last year Indy 500. He finished fifth, and then last year at Gateway he finished seventh. Nashville will be difficult for him. I think he's never had. Did he test there? I think he tested there. But last year Iowa doubleheader, he had finished third and eighth, and then Indy 500 fourth, Texas third. So what I'm trying to get at here is he actually has no weaknesses. Apparently, he may not be winning on ovals, but he is essentially top 10 every single time, except for the first Iowa race where he made a mistake, which, uncharacteristic, sure, but he is quite literally an all-round guy. And the oval win's coming soon. I don't think it'll come this year, but maybe it will, but I think next year most likely, but it's going to be tough for them to make up points on this dude unless they wall him or something. I mean, Pelot's been so consistent everywhere. It's like crazy.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to beat a guy that's literally having a Jimmy Johnson type career outlook right now. He's won two of the last three championships, 2022 and no, 2021 and 2023.
Yeah.
So it's considering how he's been on ovals this season so far. Like you said, it's hard to really even gain any points on Pelot. I think it's kind of too little, too late. I feel like for at least Will Power's sake, they got
Yeah, because he had to start he had to have started by Laguna Seca, which Pelot won that anyway.
yeah
So, and he has what, a 49? I think he has a 49
48,
point lead.
49. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's still it's not out of the question, but it's really really tough for like
Yeah.
guys after Will Power in points to really
Well,
make a
I
charge.
will I will raise the question. Scott Dixon is 50, I think 52 points? 53. 53 points back. He, I think, in my opinion, is the only one who could remotely come close just because he's the oval god. I mean, it's Scott Dixon. I mean, six-time champ. If anyone can come back from a deficit, it's him. He's done it before. But
Yeah,
I don't know. Pelot's gonna have to have mid finishes, which for him is pretty much P7.
yeah,
So
like barely like
Dixon's
in
gonna
top
have
10.
to, yeah, Dixon's gonna have to pull out a full fuel option save, whatever.
He's gonna have to do
Gateway,
mastery, like whatever IndyCar mastery he has up his sleeves for the rest of the
which he
races.
always seems to do. He
Yeah,
always seems to do. So, but yeah, it's gonna be tough. I think Will Power. I don't think he's got the juice. I love Will Power, but I don't think he's got the juice to close out this season for the championship. I think it's too hard to catch Pelot unless you're
it's.
Scott Dixon because it's the same team.
I will say that if Penske never got those penalties early in the season from the push to pass debacle thing, Will Power would probably be at least 10 points out of Pelot's lead, at
Well, I
least.
wouldn't even say that. Scott McLaughlin would have been past Willpower and right with Pelot.
Yeah, that's
Because
true.
Scotty Mack would be up there, like
Yeah, because
probably like
before
10 points
yeah
out.
before the penalties, he was leading the charge for Penske in the first couple of races. I think.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember what the
I remember Newgarden
penalty
winning
was.
winning Long Beach, and then McLaughlin did McLaughlin win the first race?
No, it was Newgarden who won, and then
Well,
Newgarden and
oh
McLaughlin
yeah,
had the feud.
Dixon won Long Beach. That's right. I thought Newgarden won
Yeah,
Long Beach, but it was Dixon. So yeah,
yeah, Dixon
if
won. Yeah,
if Penske never gets those penalties, this championship fight is a lot closer than what we're
yeah,
seeing right
except for
now.
Newgarden. Yeah,
Yeah,
except for Newgarden.
Newgarden still
Newgarden's had
be
an off year,
yeah, but
but
yeah.
McLaughlin was there. McLaughlin would have been there,
Oh
hundred
yeah,
percent.
absolutely. It would be probably like within 20 points at least.
Oh, for sure. And then if Will Power doesn't dive bomb him, he would low key almost have the
Yeah,
championship lead at this point.
yeah, we would have had a very, very different championship look this year if the penalties didn't get
Yeah,
handed out. But moving along to more driver news, David Malukas.
Little Dave.
There's a lot of points to be talked about here, but David Malukas is signing for a seat for AG Foyt Racing. The question is, why make this move, and how many cars for AG Foyt do they field, and who gets them, and who's out? So let's start off with why David Malukas decided to make the switch from Meyershank this year to AJ Foyt. It's been said in an article from what was it, the Full Oversteer website again, just saying that the reason he chose AJ Foyt is because of their improvements in performance so far this season on oval specifically. Mentioning their solid performances as of recent, including like the Indy 500, where Santino Ferrucci finished eighth, and I think last year he was top five at the end of that one, or he was before the controversial red flag, whatever. But yeah, but it's needless to say that AJ Foyt has definitely stepped up their program on the ovals this season, and maybe Leander has a thing or two to tell us about why AJ Foyt is being so much more competitive, at least in at least consistently running top 10 with Santino Ferrucci this year.
That big we talk about tiers in NASCAR and how getting help from a bigger team is paramount for a smaller team. A lot, just using Spire and Hendrick as an example, or you could say how it used to be with Wood Brothers and Penske. Penske with taking AJ Foyt racing under their wing. My God, you may not like Santino Ferrucci, but he is blasting right now. He is quite literally flying.
Yeah,
Um,
I was gonna make a joke. Yeah,
yeah, he is somehow doing insane work, and yeah, it's really
it's
cool to see
impressive.
that AJ Foyt is running so well now. Because
Yeah,
there was a
because
time
they
where,
haven't been running good in a long time.
yeah, there was a time they had what Dalton Kellett and you know who else was there?
I don't know.
Charlie Kimball, and
Yeah.
then they had Kyle Kirkwood for a year. But it was just nothing. And then
Needless to say, the future is looking bright for AJ Foyt with the Penske backing, pretty much.
oh, for sure. And I think this is a play by Penske in case Will Power retires,
Mm-hmm. Get
and then
Lucas in
eventually,
there.
oh yeah, for sure. You can use AJ Foyt as a development team, exactly how Hendrick is using Spire right now as a development team.
Absolutely. So, next part of the question: how many cars do you think AJ Foyt fields next season? And who's in like if they run two seats, who's in there and who's out?
Okay, so this is the interesting part. So we know, I think on the press release they said that Malukas would be running
Because right now, we
P41, right?
I don't know. I haven't seen that one, but all I know is that Ferrucci hasn't been able to sign anything for AJ Foyt, or he hasn't uh come to a contract deal for next season yet for him. But
Okay,
we
so
know Santino can bring sponsors with him. I think.
yeah, and then I think Malukas will have help from HMD, I believe, because I think his dad owns the HMD thing. Because I remember he was talking about that and how his dad helped him get that DCR ride with Dale Coyne. In a perfect world, they would have enough sponsorship to get 3 cars, and I wish they had 3 cars. I just want AJ Foyt to succeed. But yeah, it's. I think right now it's looking like two cars. I hope. Hey, I know half the fan base probably hates Ferrucci, but he is vital to the sport, and also he helps AJ Foyt into what top 10 points, right? Yeah, he's 10th in points.
Yeah,
He's beating Christian Lundgaard, Marcus Ericsson,
he had an Andretti
and
car.
yeah, and three of the Ganassi cars. He's beaten Roman Grosjean. He's beaten
Well,
Ray. Well,
yeah.
it's Ray Hall, but yeah, he's doing great for what they have, and I really hope they re-sign. And I think two cars would be great. Three would be a stretch. Maybe if Di Francesco buys into AJ Foyt with the Steinbrenners, and if they pass up on the Junko's Hollinger rumors there. Yeah, we'll see. But I
All
think
I can
two right
say,
now is the prediction.
all I can say is David Malukas and Santino Ferrucci lineup for AJ Foyt would go insane. It would go
Oh, that
stupid
lineup would be
crazy.
crazy.
But yeah, that's that wrapped up. So going over to the next piece of news out of IndyCar revolving around Pillow, as if it hasn't been already, is the new Audi F1 team looking for a Pillow for a potential ride? And this question can be answered pretty quickly by Alex Pillow's statement a couple days ago saying that winning championships in IndyCar are more meaningful than winning a single F1 race. And he, in fact, goes to this length at taking a poke at Alex Albon's career, um, comparing his own career to Albon's career in F1, saying, "I'm enjoying every day here incredibly, winning races and championships." End quote from fulloversteer.com again. Um, so do we think that, with the potential of how cheap Pelot's what was it that you're talking
1.5 million for the buyout
yeah for the
clause.
buyout clause, what are the chances that Pelot gets stolen out of IndyCar and put in an F1 seat?
None. Let your nuts hang, King. He's staying in Indy. I think he does not want to go to a mediocre team in F1. If he would move if it's only Red Bull or like
Yeah,
Mercedes, but we know that's not happening. So, and he's already burnt the bridge with McLaren. Well, McLaren kind of burnt the bridge, but needless to say, I think he's staying in IndyCar. And like you said, he has that Jimmy Johnson trajectory going. That Scott Dixon trajectory. He's got the Ganassi car. So yeah, I think yeah, he's letting his nuts hang. That's for sure. He put him on the dash. He's
yeah,
put him on the hybrid system. Just those two lights on the end. He's
yeah.
got one for each one.
And
But yeah,
speaking of
he's
hybrid system,
yeah. Speaking of hybrids,
what do we expect from Gateway with the new tire compound that they tested recently and the hybrid system? Do we think the hybrid system is going to be more competitive at this track compared to Iowa?
I'm gonna let you be the optimist here. I'm gonna be the pessimist. I think it's gonna be very similar to
Okay.
Iowa,
Okay.
with it being one groove. I think you won't see it'll be reminiscent of Iowa with a little bit of a mix on restarts at least of the past few years at Gateway. So
Okay.
I'm not too pumped for this just because I'm trying to be cautiously pessimist and optimistic at the same time, just because I don't want to, you know, have
I'll
too much
be
on my plate.
I'll be cautiously optimistic because I think I heard recently uh Kyle Kirkwood kind of not really like the tire compound for Gateway, at least when he tested there. I think it was when he tested there. It might have been Milwaukee. I don't know which test. There's too many tests going on for IndyCar right now for me to keep up. But I think the new tire compound, I'm hoping that it does make the racing more competitive and has more fall off than what we saw at Iowa. And I think the hybrid system has a better shot at being more useful this track. But then again, with those long straights, it's going to be hard to really use it and regenerate it through the corners because I mean I'm pretty sure 90%, if not 95% of the lap of this track is full throttle. When you're in dirty air, yeah, you'll lift off, and I can see that being the harvesting point for the hybrid system. But I think that it's hard to know what to expect from IndyCar at each track for the rest of the season, considering Gateways next, and then we got Portland. Like most of these tracks, we have no idea how this hybrid system's gonna work with the regen system and how drivers are gonna be able to utilize that. I feel like Mid Ohio was probably the best example of what to expect for the hybrid system on road courses. I think Iowa was a very bad look and a very bad example on the hybrid system's weaknesses on ovals, at least on short ovals. So it's going to be very tough to call. What if it's going to be good or not. It's like going to these racetracks for the first time in every year. It's like with brand new car. It's hard to really know what's going to happen. Other than just looking at past races and seeing who won and judging off of that, who could be a front runner, which we all expect probably Penske to be a front runners. I mean, Penske on ovals this season have been insanely strong. The
Lights
only
out.
yeah the only driver or team that can really keep up with them is Ganassi and Dixon and Pillow. So I think those are going to be and I'll give it to McLaren with Pato Award, but other than that, those are like the main group of people you're probably going to be seeing up front with Colton Herta as well. But that's going to be wrapping up the IndyCar section. We rambled on there for a little bit, but heading over to the NASCAR section where we got lots to talk about.
All right, and here we are with the NASCAR portion of the podcast, the most long awaited for the events that transpired over the weekend at Richmond. But before we get into that debate, we're going to go ahead and talk about some of the some more silly season rumors, kind of round up the remaining rides that we have available. We'll start off here. Brandon Jones, William Solowich, Taylor Gray, possibly the lineup for Joe Gibbs Xfinity in 2025. How do we feel about JGR? Do you think that they're going to keep Eric Almirola around as like a mentor or part time, or is this like 3 full-time guys?
I think they're gonna keep Almirola part time, and then have their Ryan Truex and I guess Joe Grab Jr. sometimes. They're gonna have their quote unquote star car, not really, but they're gonna have their dev team. But I don't know about the Brandon Jones pick, but I know Sawalish and Gray are young guys that have lots of potential, and they got backing, and of course Sawalish has major backing, and Gray a little less, but I think it's a good lineup for JGR. It sucks that they're losing Chandler Smith. We don't really know where Chandler Smith's gonna go, which is definitely interesting. But yeah, it's I think it's a good lineup for them. I think it should work. I think two young guys paired with Brandon Jones and then a dev team. Your classic JGR stuff.
I think the future is looking really bright for JGR and Xfinity. I think this is going to be the best lineup they've had in a long time since they had like Christopher Bell in the lineup back in 2019. Um, I think that William Sawalich is untapped potential that he's currently being worked on. He's still learning and everything, but his performances in trucks and ARCA has been unmatched through certain circumstances and everything. But Taylor Gray, I think, is also another good prospect to be in the JGR lineup. Brandon Jones, I'm on the fence with him being in the team just based off of his lackluster performance in junior motorsports. But then again, he had most of his wins come when he was in JGR. So I have a little hope, a little glimpse of hope that Brandon Jones can do something good with JGR in the Toyota camp. But it's just gonna have to be one of those things where time will tell.
Yeah, and Brandon Jones definitely brings in some veteran experience, some veteran leadership for that team. Even though you already have Eric Almirola, it's nice to have a guy that's been full time in the Xfinity Series the past few years to help guide them along their way. The only question is, you look through here, you look at these notes, you don't see Christian Eckes anywhere on here, so you gotta wonder. Are they really going to go for Taylor Gray or Solowich, or is it a smokescreen to bring in Eckes?
It's we know as much as y'all listeners out there, to be honest, but our sources are saying that with Sawalish and Taylor Gray getting deep starts, important starts this year, and how they've been performing in ARCA and in trucks, it does look like they have the backing, they have the funding, and yeah, I think Ekis is a great talent, but I think Sawalish and Gray have the most funding Toyota ties that'll push them towards this opportunity.
Yeah, and speaking of opportunities, as we've been talking about, two of the seats for Front Row Motorsports have been filled, but there's still one left open for the 2025 season, and they're going to have an announcement this weekend, looks like early Saturday morning. Um, Looking possibly at a returning face to Front Row Motorsports. I know Leander and I and Max have talked about, who exactly could fill that seat, and we're hearing now that the likely candidate isn't Sam Mayer. It
Yeah,
looks to
shocking news.
be, yeah, it looks to be a guy who has been with the program before, Zane Smith,
David
and
Reagan. No, I'm kidding.
David Reagan.
Uh,
David Reagan, please come on the podcast.
We'd love to
yes,
have you
Um,
please.
on.
Unadilla,
yeah,
Georgia legend, please. I pass by your town every time I do a road trip. Anyways, carry on.
but Zane Smith, former driver of the 38 Ford for FRM, is rumored to be coming back, even though he's on Aspire team with a contract with Trackhouse. Trackhouse might be letting him go, and looks like FRM is wanting to bring him back home. Max, what do you think?
I think it's an interesting move from Zane and Mayer because they're both Chevy team drivers and they're both going over to Ford, most likely. But I think it makes sense for Zane because if you think about it, he raced for Ford in trucks, won a championship with them, especially with Loves on the car. I can see him maybe running the 38 car and Todd Gillen runs the 34. I don't know how likely that number changes, but I can see that happening. At least Zane moving over to FRM. Mayor, I don't know. It's tough to know what Mayer's gonna do because nothing's been said about his lineup. Being said about Junior Motorsports lineup for next year. He hasn't been, mentioned about being a part of that lineup next year. So it's kind of up in the air. I really have no idea where Mayer's going. I guess if he were to stay with the Chevy pipeline, I can see him taking over Zane's spot at Spire. I feel like that's most logical place that Mayer could land if he goes Cup racing, because I mean we know how much Mayer wants to get a Cup ride, so I think that's the most likely spot that Mayer can get.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I agree, but as we'll talk about next, I do think Zane would flourish better or more at front row. I know that he said he wanted to be at Trackhouse, but I don't know. He had this aura, and we use aura
Sparingly,
very sparingly on this podcast. But
yeah.
the front row and Zane Smith aura was insane.
In the trucks,
So
it was
yeah,
great.
yeah. So they need him back. They need to get him back,
I
and
think that's going to help the program out a lot with those
yeah,
two drivers,
and
Gilliland.
since Noah got a job for front row, maybe he'll less of Zane Smith's TVs if Zane becomes his teammate.
That's right. Yeah, I saw
And
that.
Noah, please come on the podcast, but
Don't throw your Wii remote.
please wear the fucking Wii strap, dude.
Yeah, don't throw the
We've
remote
been
at the
through this.
camera.
We've been through this. We've been through this,
It
dude.
even has instructions before every Wii game. Make sure it's strapped on your
Yeah,
wrist.
literally, like make sure it's strap, bro. Keep the strap on. Anyways,
Okay, that could be
talk
taken out
about
of
the strap. Haas
context.
factory team seems to have strapped down their drivers for next year for Xfinity. Sheldon Creed and Sam Mayer, the most likely candidates, and I think it's pretty much a done deal. At least Creed is. But yeah, I'm going to ask y'all about that in a second, but real quick, Aaron Kramer, the lead race engineer for the 17 car, will be the crew chief for the Colt Custer's 41 car and Cup next year for HFT. But what do y'all think about the Sheldon Creed Sam Mayer duo at Haas Factory Team that's rumored for next year?
For Xfinity?
Well,
Yeah, for Xfinity.
I think
Hmm.
And Creed
I
is a
think
done
of
deal essentially right now, from
I
what I
think from
hear.
what we talked about earlier in the year, it's downgrade
I think,
from who we talked about earlier in the
in
year
Yeah,
my
with it
opinion,
being Priest and Eckes.
I think
Yeah, it's a downgrade.
I think they're good placeholders for
I think
this
Creed
next
is a good
season.
placeholder. Mayer at least has a little bit of potential, but I think Creed is there
I think
just as a
Mayer's
transition
I
driver.
think Mayer's just gonna struggle with the Ford, just their performance, and he's, you know, I feel like
Yeah,
the confidence might tank with Sam Mayer being in Chevy equipment and Junior Motorsports equipment. I think his confidence might tank with the Ford next season, but who's to
yeah.
say that'll happen?
Especially if he loses Marty Lindley, who's been his
Yeah,
crew chief for the last 3 years. Yeah, I don't. Hey man, I was like, hey, you could go to Spire, get that funding, or just stay with Junior, but he's going to Haas, so that's gonna be interesting with that Ford link up, and yeah,
You know,
it's
he said, he said he was ready for Cup, but does he really think that maybe moving to Haas is going to be the best opportunity for him to move into Cup? I
maybe.
mean, I don't see it. I felt like if he wanted a better pipeline to Cup, he'd stick with the Chevrolet camp.
Yeah, but hey, you never know. Maybe Rick Ware an epiphany and they just start getting top tens each week, and then you have Austin Cindric, who yeah, he has an extension now, but his future isn't certain. He's definitely still on the chopping block compared to Blaney and Logano. So yeah,
Yeah,
there's
for sure.
there's opportunity there, and if one of the front row guys don't perform, you could see him take one of those spots. But I don't know. I would have rather kept in that Chevy camp. There seems to be some rumblings of new stuff coming in. Talking about new stuff coming in. They're coming into JRM. We have of course, the mainstay of Justin Allgaier returning. Um, I'm tired of the 1 year deals, man. It gets more stressful each year as he gets older. But he's back on a 1 year deal, allegedly. Sammy Smith signed a multi-year, so he's back. Connor Zilish is driving the 88 next year. So with Brandon Jones and Sam Mayer likely leaving, Carson Kvapil, my man, Cars Tour champion. He's a phenom and he deserves this shot. I think he's gonna take advantage of it. I think he's gonna be in the 9 car, that flagship 9 car, bringing it back to victory lane. We saw the potential at Dover. We've seen potential at other tracks. I think this lineup again, headstoned by JA as your veteran. You have 3 young guys, 19, 21, and 18 next year. That's all you can ask for. JRM really setting up this off season.
Yeah, you got to think it's kind of a different direction that JRM's going. We're used to them having two or three older guys that have had experience in Cup as part of their roster. And it was that way for a long time. But it looks like 2025 is coming in, and so is an all new lineup with the exception of Allgaier and Smith. But definitely a younger group of guys, a young core that juniors looking to build around. And you got to wonder, is it are we reaching that time in the sport where we're trying to push all the young guys that we're finding in like the Cars Tour and ARCA and the weekly series? Are we getting to a point where we're starting to push those guys through the pipeline maybe a little bit too early?
I I with Xfinity, I think it's never too early for them to move up because Xfinity is kind of like you perform or you're just not gonna turn out. I mean, we see it with Creed, how the perception of him coming in from trucks, he didn't get rushed. He won truck championship and he was like, okay, we're going Xfinity racing. He hasn't won. And Jesse Love came straight from ARCA to Xfinity, and he's outrunning uh, Sheldon Creed half of the weeks as a rookie. So honestly, now is the best time to get those young guys moved up and have them marinate in the Xfinity Series, gain that racecraft, which I just wish Corey Haim had that because we love Corey Haim on this podcast. We want him to succeed and we want to see him in an Xfinity car, but he's just stuck in that Truck Series ride. But I think it's a great time to rush people up to Xfinity. I mean, Jesse Love works out right now. I mean, he's worked out for this year, and I think Zilish is gonna do the same. He's doing full time in Arca East, and he's been very good. He's been taking it to Sawalish and beating him most of the time. So I think he's 3 for 4. So best time to rush him right now.
I think a good point to bring up is something I heard on Door Bumper Clear podcast was when you bring these young drivers up to Xfinity, you have to have backing, like financial backing, sponsor backing. If you're gonna put them in a competitive car, that's the sad reality behind it. It's not much talent based. It's more what can you bring to the team with money and stuff like that. And that's how it's been for the past couple of years with Xfinity and Cup. And it's I mean, not saying, any of the drivers in JRM or anything is like a pay driver. All of them have exceptional skill level and talent. It's just, part of the thing of them being able to race for these good teams is being able to bring sponsors with them to these teams. And
Yeah, and you have
Zilch is able
those
to do that.
odd, yeah, you have those odd teams like we say, Jesse Love, he got rushed. He's on a fully paid for ride. So Wheelan is not a Jesse Love sponsor. They're an RCR sponsor, and they said, hey, put anybody in this car, you know. And I wish we had more of that in the sport. Kind of like if Ekis leaves MHR for trucks, Napa's going to stay on that car or on that truck. It's just a matter of who they want to put in it. So I wish our sport had more deals like that. Had more, I think the sponsors get more exposure for that because the people like them more. I mean, we saw it with Leaf Filter and Justin Haley when he was there at Colleague. I wish we had more of that instead of pay
Yeah.
drivers. But then again,
And
Solash is a pay driver, but he's pretty good. Sammy Smith's a pay driver. He's pretty good.
the
So
best example of that in the Cup Series is like what we just talked about with Love's Travel and with Front Row. They've been on that 34 car for
yeah,
over a decade, and it
facts.
doesn't matter who they've put in that car. Like that ride is paid for mainly because of like Love's and Figure Eight auctions.
Yeah, and their truck
So
team too.
yeah, so my biggest worry though is that you bring all these guys up, all these young guys up to Xfinity, and then what? Because you obviously can't keep them in your Xfinity program forever, but there's only a limited number of Cup rides available every year. You know, you can't be a team or a Cup team or an Xfinity Series team and be like, okay, we're going to bring these guys up and we're going to sign them to 1 or 2 year deals. And then if they don't work out, then we're just going to move on. Eventually, sponsors are going to get tired of why are we having a new guy in the car every year or every other year, regardless of how old or young they are. I think that's the problem is you're bringing up too much talent and there's just not enough seats.
This reminds me exactly of F1's dilemma with all these young drivers and literally not enough seats because each team has two drivers only, and there's not enough teams in F1. And some of these younger drivers who aren't able to get seats in F1 are just going over to IndyCar. That's a good, escape plan or, a good plan to buy time to try and get a seat in F1. But with NASCAR, I guess a good example for NASCAR is like um, JGR, where Eric Jones gets put in the 20 car and Matt Kent just pretty much is forced into retirement in 2017. You're going to be seeing a lot of these guys are going to be forced into retirement because of these younger drivers being able to show their talent and, like you said, Rob, not enough seats in the cup to fill those rides or fill that talent. And so I feel like that's what we're going to be seeing in the next 5 or so years. Is these veterans are going to be forced into retirement because of this younger, promising talent taking their rides, pretty much.
Yeah, if you're not a guy like, Kyle Larson or Christopher Bell that's really good in another form of racing, if they're not good at like doing something else besides, stock car racing, then, they're pretty much going to be out of work. Because you got to think, not only is there only a certain amount of seats available in the top three series, but, there's only so many roles that you can take as an announcer or as an analyst or as a reporter for
And
Fox or TNT or NBC or whoever's going to be covering NASCAR for the years to come.
the names that come to mind right now that I could see pretty much being taken out of the ride because of young talent is, in 5 years at least, is Austin Dillon, Chris Buescher, Michael McDowell. I mean, Michael McDowell's getting up in there in
Oh, not
age.
Chris Buescher, I don't
Anyway,
think.
I I don't know, man. It's 5 years, 5 year plan. I don't know.
Keselowski,
Keselowski for
Keselowski would be
sure.
out
Kowski for
before.
sure. Buescher's only 30 and
Bush.
he's won 4 races. I don't think he's
Uh,
in.
I don't know. 5 years, a lot can change, man.
You
Kyle
know what,
Busch
Hamlin?
also can
I
hop
see
out.
Hamlin.
Hamlin on that list.
Yeah,
Hamlin on that
Hamlin,
list.
yeah, Hamlin's on the list. Yep. You already know Briscoe's taking Truex's seat, so depending on how Briscoe does in this 5 year stretch in the 19 car, for better or for worse, he could be replaced by someone else too, by like
And don't be
potentially
surprised.
William Swalich.
And don't be surprised if you see a Hendrick guy or two on that list either,
Yeah,
yeah,
which could be,
yeah.
which as much as I hate to say it, Bowman's on that list, and possibly Byron.
Hey, even Larson, if he decides to do something else, I mean,
If
it's
Larson
up
goes to
there.
IndyCar full time,
He could do
obviously,
anything
that's
with
gonna
and
that
we
team.
view
be a
Chase,
hot commodity seat right there.
yeah, and we view Chase Elliott as kind of like the Jeff Gordon in terms of being the lifer for Hendrick Motorsports. But what if he decides he wants to do something similar to his dad and start his own team?
Yeah, you never know at this point. In 5 years, it could look completely different.
NASCAR, yeah, NASCAR can change a lot in 5 years. We've seen how much it's changed in the past 3 years with this next gen car. Who's to say what's going to happen in 5 years?
Yeah, and speaking
Yeah,
of speaking of change, Spire, of course, ditching Corey LaJoy after this season, after that Kyle Busch debacle. Um, there's two candidates, one more likely because he would be coming back to the team he won for, and another guy who has had Cup experience but has been very lackluster past few years. We're talking about Justin Haley and Ryan Preece. For Justin Haley, it's the question of will he jump to them instead of an eventual third RK car. I think it is a possibility just because of Spire money. I mean, they have a pit of money right now. So, yeah, you could definitely see Justin Haley there. I think Ryan Preece was rumored, but I don't think he's gonna get that ride. I think it's all Justin Haley's if he wants it. So,
I
yeah,
think
Spire,
I
please
think
sign Justin Haley.
I think Haas would be kind of silly to let go of Ryan Preece because he's definitely because I think Preece is one of those drivers whose best potential is in Xfinity. He's a
Yeah.
good Xfinity driver and he can bring you some consistent success down there. Um, do we think that Haley makes the move to Spire again? I doubt it. He seems content for Rick Royer Racing, and he's had some success with Rick Royer, and if the sponsorship is there, which is what I'm hearing for that third FKR car or FRFK. There we go. Uh, too many R's, too many three-letter initials in the news. But that third car for Roush Fenway Keselowski could be coming sooner than people think. So, I mean, I think Haley may only have to stick it out one more season at Rick Ware and then maybe have that third car in 2026.
Yeah, especially with this new news of RFK likely poaching the Kroger sponsorship away from JGR. which was, we thought it was going to go to JGR automatically, but RFK seems to be the landing point for Kroger, so that could open up that 10 mil that Brad needs for that third charter. Of course, moving on to Legacy Motor Club, real quick point, they re-signed Eric Jones for a multi-year deal, so most likely 2 to 3. And then of course John Hunter's on there long term, and they'll help that team grow, have some stability at the driver standpoint as they have changes in the front office. And speaking of front office, we got Colleague Racing and RCR merger being rumored. And could it happen? But real quick, we just found this out today. AJ Allmendinger is returning to full-time Cup in 2025, and then 2026 he'll be back in Xfinity.
And
I
the
don't know what Colleague's
cycle
doing with their lineup,
repeats.
but it's always it's Colleague.
2022 Cup, 2023 Xfinity, 2024. Well, I don't wait. Hold on.
No,
What? That
2022
makes
was Xfinity.
yeah.
2023
Okay.
was
I just remembered the that
Cup.
finish at Coda, and I thought, oh wow, right,
So,
John Medinger's Cup that year.
Yeah, yeah,
so I mean, the fact that we've been talking about this rumor for 2 weeks now, at least, makes it more inclined that it's probably going to happen.
yeah. And
Um,
and real quick, just sorry to cut you off, Rob, but there was a tweet that NASCAR put out and it said, "Oh, he's driving the number 16," and then they edited that post and it didn't have the 16 on there. So that just fuels the rumor mill on what's probably going to happen.
yeah, and I mean, not to mention, with Legacy re-signing Jones and Allmendinger coming back up to Cup, for those sets of teams, respectfully, you have to. The question comes to mind: did they secure those guys for their rides for the foreseeable future because they don't view anyone as good as the people they have now, or are they just doing it to because they believe they can still develop? That's the question I want to get an
I
answer to.
I think they still think that Eric Jones can develop. AJ Allmendinger cannot develop. He's AJ Allmendinger, right? He's on the latter end of his career. We have seen some slip ups of road courses that we are just not accustomed to seeing from him. So he's getting older and he's running out of time. So I think it's two different mindsets, right? For Colleague, and if they do merge with RCR, this would be a steady hand for them and a good shot at road course wins and getting into the playoffs. But for Legacy, they're looking long term. Eric Jones is only 27 or 28. So he has time to sit there and help that team grow into contenders eventually. But yeah, Allmendinger, I think it's just Colleague found funding for him last minute. They said, okay, let's move him up. I think they demote Hemrick back to Xfinity as they did the previous year, not 24, but 2023. But yeah, I think it's definitely interesting, and yeah, I think the merger could be fruitful. I think that's where Trackhouse gets that extra charter from because they'd have 3 between Colleague and RCR, and then they have to sell the fourth to Trackhouse. But yeah, and real quick, we'll touch up on Rhett Jones Racing. They're having Noah Gragson in the car this weekend at Michigan, driving the Ford Performance number 30 car. They've been looking at full time in 2025 and a couple of ideas who their driver could be. And I'll start off by saying Deegan, of course, is a option for any Ford seat right now, apparently. But as we were talking about earlier, Ryan Preece, where could he go? This is a place where he could go. AM Racing is also there, up for grabs, but it's between Preece and Deegan for what team they want, and I think Deegan would rather go to Red Jones Racing. So yeah, it's gonna be definitely interesting to see for Red Jones Racing, but yeah, that pretty much rounds it up for silly season, and then the meat of the argument starts now. The good old penalty report, and we're gonna tease y'all a little bit because we're first gonna just say Logano got fined $50,000 for his pit road antics. And did he deserve a harsher penalty?
Yes. I
Hey,
mean,
Rob's a
I
simple
mean,
man. Rob's a simple man. I agree with him. I
Simpleton.
agree with all his statements.
I mean, when you're putting people innocent God, I don't know how else to put this, but like when you let your anger and emotions get the best of you, you start putting innocent people in danger. You know, then yeah, $50,000 isn't enough. That's a slap on the wrist,
That's the
and
same amount as Bubba got fined for hitting Bowman under caution at Chicago, which is, I
I
mean,
think it should. I'm not saying he should have been suspended per se, but the way I see it, I'm fining him 6 figures. And I'd
yeah,
say that he loses his ability to qualify for the next race. I say that he's a start from the rear in
yeah,
the
and
next
he's on
race.
probation. And he's on probation. We need to bring
Yeah,
probation back
I
for
yeah,
these events too.
wholeheartedly disagree with you, Rob. I think the penalty's fine. In my opinion, Austin Dill's family, Austin Dill's family or whatever the crew should not have been that far out on an active pit road, while a bunch of other cars were still coming down pit road. I think that I'm on Joey Logano's side. I don't think he should have been gotten anything worse than what he got. I think it's 50-50 because it's first of all, I think it's NASCAR's fault for letting the officials have the family out that far, and it's also I think the fault of I guess Austin Dillon's family for being out that far on pit road in the first place. And
yeah.
I've seen
But
from
who's
other
to say?
I've
But
seen
the
from
thing
other
is,
people.
we agree that they should not be on pit road at that
Yeah.
time. But you can't put officials in harm's way, even because he had a broken rear axle. If he gasses up too much, he's running over someone, an official,
And
which
not
is
to
big time.
mention, like they have post-race inspections and procedures in place. You can't just go speeding down pit road in an opposite lane just for the hell of it.
Well,
I
Yeah,
I
mean,
don't
I
think he was
we
get that he's
speeding.
understand
mad.
he's frustrated. We understand he's mad, but you can't just gas it up on pit road. No one
And
does
then
that,
to,
right?
and then to rev his engine at like a family member with a kid, like come on. I mean, that's beyond petty. I
Yeah, but they
mean,
shouldn't have been there in
I
the first place. We all agree on
th-
that.
we yes, I agree. But at the same time, don't take it out of the family of the man. God, like
Yeah, take it on the dude
that's up.
himself. He should have
Like
gone like Hamlin and Bowman at Martinsville. He should have done that. Hamlin and Bowman at
I don't
Martinsville. He
know.
should have gone up there.
Logano's been on some cowardly shit for a long time, and I think he needs to.
Uh,
Someone needs to rock him into place.
I
I would love to see Gregson fucking get into it with him.
That would be interesting with Ford teammates and the Penske alliance.
I don't know. I feel like we've had pit road instances before that have gone unnoticed or it hasn't been able to talked about in the past, and I don't know exactly what pit road incidents are, as bad as this, but I feel like it's happened in the past before, and it's kind of been brushed over, and it's not really been a penalty.
Well,
Um,
the thing is, Daniel Suarez was penalized, I remember at Coda, for bumping two people in pit road, just bumping, and he got fined 50K. So he didn't even like rev engine, nothing, spin the tires with a broken car. He just yeah, he got fined 50K. But I'm saying this was worse than what Bubba did to Bowman at Chicago, 100 times worse compared to what Bubba did, which was just nudge him into the wall on a cool down lap. We've seen drivers do worse and get out scot free.
Like
But
the Bush Harvick thing several years ago at Darlington.
yeah,
yeah,
that was
that's a prime example. That's like I feel like
well, that
that's
one didn't get
worse.
brushed over, I believe. That one did not get
That
brushed
one,
over.
no, that was like a bigger penalty than this.
I think
Yeah,
that
and
that's
But at the
worse
same
than
time,
this because
but at
Kyle
the same
Busch was
time, there
pushing a
wasn't
stalled
people.
car.
But no, there wasn't people on pit
There
road when the
were.
Bush
There
Harvick
was
thing
there was
happened.
pit crew members, NASCAR officials near the area of that incident.
But they
The
weren't out on
wall,
pit road
the
like they were at Richmond.
still that's an active pit road with personnel on active on there, and I think that's pretty much the exact same
all right.
situation.
So here it is. Harvick and Kyle Busch were placed on 4-week probation and fined $25,000 Tuesday for their pit road confrontation. Now, $25,000 due to inflation is probably like $40K now. But essentially, yes, they did uh, fine him for that. But we're making the argument that Bubba got fined $50K for hitting Bowman while in the car,
With
just on the
that,
track.
I think NASCAR overreacted on that penalty. I feel like that
Yeah,
penalty wasn't that big of a deal.
but with that precedent, Logano should have been fined double that if he's doing that on pit road,
Exactly.
or at least do
Like there's
75K. 75K. There you go. 25K more.
yes, because you're telling me only 50K and no probation or anything is like
Yeah.
okay. If this is all it's going to take, then I can take out my frustration whenever I want on pit road.
Well, what I gotta say to that too is it was different NASCAR in 2011 compared, 13 years later now. It's a different NASCAR. The cars are different, policing is different, the penalties are different. Something like this back then would be, I guess it. I'm trying to figure out a pit road incident
It
back
would have been
then.
policed better, probably.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
because he would be placed on probation,
yeah, the
so he
penalties
couldn't
back
have been
then
able to do anything.
were more harsher back then. So
Yeah.
I mean, that was before the boys have at it. I think thing with like I think that
Oh
thing
no, that
came
was
out.
right in the heat of it. That was right in
No,
the
that
heat of
was
it.
Oh,
during it.
okay.
That was during,
I
yeah.
was I was thinking the boys have at it thing was 2014 for some reason, but I think the penalty for today's day and age is appropriate. And I think that it's I I can see the debate for him being on probation. But I don't think he should be like losing any qualifying thing going forward. I think the fine is it's all right. It's okay. I think I slightly agree on the potential probation being on Logano, but I mean it's NASCAR's
I mean,
already made
hey,
the decision. We can't really do much about
yeah,
it.
and they've been strict since 2011 after that incident. So I mean, it's you gotta take care of everybody on pit road.
Another
It's not just
another
you
pit
out
road
there.
incident, 2014 Fall Charlotte race. Kozlowski going ham on Stewart and Matt Kenseth there. Even though it wasn't really near NASCAR personnel, it was still extremely dangerous running over
Yeah,
people on
well,
pit
that
road.
was
Turdy
on
blues,
cooldown
turdy
lap.
blues.
Yeah,
Turdy blue.
he
No,
turned
but
me under yellow.
yeah, no, but the for that one, I think it was all cooldown lap, and then the last thing that happened was
Was
Stewart
that pit
backed
road
in.
entrance? Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't like on pit road actually. It was before the commitment line. So that was also interesting that happened, and then yeah, but
Those technicalities, man.
yeah, technicalities. Speaking of technical, we'll brush over this one point here. Austin Dillon spotter Brandon Benesh, I think it is. He's been suspended 3 races for yelling "wreck him" on the radio. No surprise there. Can't be doing that. Can't do that. But here's the meat of the argument. Austin Dillon and the number 3 team docked 25 owner and driver points, and his playoff eligibility has been rescinded for his Richmond win, the return of the encumbered win. We call it cucumbered here at the Apex Bros podcast. Cucumber, please come on the podcast. But yes, cucumbered win. And yeah, what are y'all's opinions on this?
Go ahead, Max.
On the spotter.
No,
No, no,
on the
no.
whole
On the whole
On
thing.
the Dylan
just
penalty.
the whole
This
thing.
is exactly what I wanted from NASCAR. Like this is exactly what I was saying for the past 3 days. It's exactly what they did.
3 days.
3 days, yeah. Um, from the very night that it happened, I was debating, I was talking to you guys that that eligibility for playoffs should be stripped and you should get points penalty, fine, all the shebang except for obviously losing the race. Um, you know,
Yeah, I think we were
I think
trying to kind of on the
that's
same
fair.
boat
I
there.
think that's fair to let him keep the win, but everything else that happened to him is 100% okay with me. It's exactly what I wanted NASCAR to do. And it's the right decision in my mind because if they don't take away the playoff eligibility from the win, you are going to have a mess on your hands for the next 3 races. You're going to have guys right hooking each other, dumping each other at Michigan, Daytona, Darlington on high speed tracks. And
Yeah.
it's literally going to be a demolition derby, which is what NASCAR is not. NASCAR is about, rubbing his racing kind of deal and, being able to use each other up, but not the way that Austin Dillon did to Hamlin and Logano Sunday night.
Yeah, and I'll jump in here and say Austin Dillon said that he wanted to do everything he could to win. Well, he won, but he just doesn't get the benefits of
But at
it.
what
And I
cost
think,
now? He literally
yeah,
did all that for nothing.
literally, he just got a win. That's it.
Yeah,
None of the shebang with it, except for the money. That's all he
I
got.
think this
So
is NASCAR's way of enforcing the top 30 rule without having it in place.
I don't know
If you
about that.
think
I think
about
it's
it,
just.
if
I
you
think they just called him out on his bullshit.
I
To be
know that,
honest,
but if you think about it, it puts him back 32nd in points, back to where he was
31st.
before.
No,
So
he's 31st. He
so
gained
like
one spot
if you had won with the 30, if you have to be top 30 in points rule, he would
he would
probably,
have been in because he jumped
I
to 26th in
guess.
points.
I guess you got a point
Yeah,
there,
so
but
he would have been comfortably in.
I
But
don't
yeah,
know.
I think it's a good penalty. I again, you can argue the situation. I personally was I think most of the
You
fan
can
base was all right with the first move that he did, but then the second move
you
kind of
can argue the
soured it.
situation being enforced by the playoff system.
Yeah. Also, playoff format is they
That's
say
something.
don't
Yeah.
hate the player, hate the
This is
game. It's
So
something
definitely the
we need to
game.
talk about. Is the
Yeah.
playoff system? I
We're,
think.
we're gonna let Rob take this away real quick
Yeah,
because I wanna let him cook.
so here's the thing. First off, I just want to congratulate NASCAR for having the balls to stay consistent this year with their penalties.
Put him on the
It,
dash. Sit
it,
your nutsack.
it's been a long time coming, but it's nice to see NASCAR have some consistency with penalties. Um, Secondly, I do want to say, I would be fine with the suspension of the spotter and the owner or driver points being docked. I'm fine with that. But excuse me. I mean, you make this win in your end system for the playoffs, and NASCAR backs themselves into a corner and backs themselves into a situation where shit like this happens. And I mean, to be fair, what else is Austin Dillon supposed to do? If he's
Finish second.
32nd or 30, well, no, if he's 32nd in points, right?
It's not gonna
And
help.
this is
his season's down the
I mean,
drain.
if this is the only track that he's got a shot to win at, like, I don't blame him. I'm doing everything in my power to win that race.
In Austin Dillon's
Like,
perspective too, he has had
well,
a terrible season. His season's down the drain and down.
he
Yeah.
It's
he
gone.
was the third worst driver behind Harrison Burton and Zane Smith.
Yeah,
And in his position, I don't blame him one bit. NASCAR says it's winning you're in, and they didn't have a precedence behind it, and they didn't have like, oh, well, you can't do that, you can't do this until a situation like this occurs, and now they have to do something.
this is
And maybe morally, it's probably the right decision, but I'm not talking about that. Austin Dillon did what he had to do to win and secure his spot in the playoffs. And that's NASCAR's fault for not having a rule about that. Hell,
Facts.
we talked about this earlier this week. They don't have a rule in place right now to take away his win. So you're
Yeah.
telling
Yeah. They
me
literally
that
talked
you
about
can
that. Yeah.
you're telling me that he can still win this race but not get the benefits of it because in a playoff system that NASCAR created, you have to win and you're in. Dillon technically did no wrong. He did what he was supposed to do. NASCAR just has a bullshit excuse so that way people can be happy morally. That's what it is. It's a moral win for the Hamlin fans. It's a moral win for the Logano fans, and for everybody else who doesn't like Dillon because he's in the 3 car.
as a Hamlin
It's a
fan.
popular move because of it. And I'm not saying that, I said some stuff earlier this week in a Discord conversation that was kind of stupid, and I'll say that now. And it's not Hamlin bias or Logano bias. It's basically the fact that NASCAR had to put a stipulation in place, and Dylan
It
had to
should
be
have
the
been
fall
there.
guy.
It should have been there
And
as
it
soon as
should
they
have been
introduced
there.
this.
They shouldn't have allowed this to happen in the first place. So Dylan found a gray area and took advantage of it. And there's no, by the rule book, there was nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
And I
and they
felt
have the
like,
appeal coming up, so who
yeah,
knows? Maybe they overturn it. You never know,
and I think
because
they should. And I
there's no
think they
rule
should.
on it.
There wasn't no rule on it. It's just like when Chastain and Wall rode to make the championship 4. They made a rule afterwards, but at the time they allowed it. And I don't see I know he wrecked 2 guys to get there. But if we're talking 10, 15, 20 years ago, we've seen guys wreck each other all the time to win races. Maybe not to this extent, but it's happened, and nothing happened to them.
One
They didn't
thing,
take away his win. I'll let you finish in a second, Max. I just want to round this off real quick. Uh, Basically, they're going to allow this one to stand in terms of using this as promotional material for the next Richmond race. But at the same time, it's a big FU to Austin Dillon and RCR.
I
That's my take
think
on it.
what you mentioned about NASCAR tending to the fans of Logano and Hamlin's morals and making things right with them is completely out of the question. I think this is more about keeping the integrity of the sport, as bad it is as it is right now, keeping the integrity of the sport intact and having this series being taken seriously from other fans from other series and preventing more loss from the NASCAR fan base than what we already have had. Um, Denny Hamlin put it best. It's if we want to be taken seriously, we can't be having demolition derbies from week to week. We have to be taken as a serious sport in a series that has racing as the main focus, not just wrecking people for wins. Because it's a really really bad look on NASCAR to have this happen. And another
And I
point,
agree.
another point I want to bring up too is now that we're all putting the blame on NASCAR's flaws of this system, I think that all this really started back in the early 2000s where they got rid of the season long format with the Winston Cup format and replaced it with a chase at the time, Nextel Cup, Nextel Chase with a cup with like 10 drivers or whatever. And then also having the, at the time, green white checkered rule where it was ensuring that the race would finish under green. I think that with those two changes at the time has had a rippling effect to where we are today. If those two changes don't happen, we're not going to be in this current reality right now. We are going to be at a completely
Look,
different situation as a sport. With
so
this would never happen if NASCAR doesn't make the decision 20 years ago of
I
creating a chase format and having
You're
these
right.
green white
Someone
checkered
just gets
finishes.
dubs for a regular win without playoffs.
No, none of this happens. None of this happens if NASCAR stays true to themselves with the season long format, with no green white checkered finishes. None of this happens. Nothing comes even remotely close to this. If
But
that
I
yeah,
changed,
I don't
you
know
say
because
that though, but
it's the
you have
butterfly
people that
effect.
would be. Yeah, I get that part, but you can't just say that people wrecking each other for a win wouldn't happen,
no,
regardless
it
of
would
what
still
format you're
happen.
in. It still happens.
It would still
Like
happen.
I understand it
it
still
just
happens, but
wouldn't
it
it
wouldn't be
would
under this circumstance.
It doesn't matter. It
not
would still happen.
necessarily. At that
It could
point,
still
you're
happen.
racing for points. At that point, it's still racing for points.
Then people would be
You,
wrecking for fifth with 10 races to go. It doesn't matter with the state of the sport right now. It would just be the same thing, just for a different position. There's no
I
solution
I don't
because of
think
Brian
it's
France and why BFJ and how he came in and basically ruined it. The
I
chase format was fine first few years, right? And then they decided to go, oh no, we're gonna go stick and ball in playoffs.
I don't think it
so
gets to
we
this
can
Worst
point.
still
decision.
I don't think it gets to this
we
point.
can So obviously, we could spend a whole other 2-3 hours arguing about what takes we should have on this, what we should, what we shouldn't. The bottom line is this: if NASCAR wants to fix the problem, It's very simple. Just get rid of the win in your end format.
Yeah,
It's very simple.
I agree.
And then my solution was to get rid of that format, get rid of stage racing, bring back the 03 format for the regular season, and then base it like top 16 guys get in on points instead of wins in your end.
I
Yeah,
mean, we've
and
literally
I
seen
would.
on social media
And,
of people showing what the current season format would look like if it was full season points, and it's a lot more intriguing battle than like it's like what we have right now for the regular season championship. If there's no playoffs, this championship goes on for another 10 races, and it gets a lot more exciting as the races go down, like we're seeing right now with the regular season.
yeah, and I think the thing is too is that they've made things so complicated and so unnecessary just for ratings and just for
There's too
views.
much gray
You know,
area.
whether it's for sponsors, whether it's for their own greed, whatever it may be, I think the best thing to do, because you can have both systems, it works.
yeah, you can
You just
integrate.
have to. So you can have the Winston Cup format for the first 26 races of the season, and then you keep the points format, and you just go until the end. And I think 16 drivers is too many to have compete for a championship.
Yeah.
Personally, I think 12 was the sweet spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I felt like you could still do 12 drivers, and then you would have a round of 9, a round of 6, and a championship 3.
Yeah, with the 4 rounds instead of having,
12, 8, and 4.
yeah.
Like 16 guys is too many. And
Yeah.
if and like I said, if you kept this win in your end system with 10 guys or 12 guys, this Austin Dillon situation wouldn't have been the first time this happened this year.
Yeah, it would have been happening since after Atlanta.
Because
Like it
there
would
would
have
have been
been,
less spots.
yeah. It would have been absolute havoc, but yeah, I think we can all agree that it was, I guess it was a good penalty,
Deserving
but
penalty.
it should have been in the rule book way before this ever happened.
I think what also brought him to this point for this decision was the history of right hooking in the past 2 years in NASCAR. I
Yeah.
think NASCAR should have gone a step further and suspended him just to keep up the consistency with right hooking. But I mean, I guess it's
What
kind
are
of the
we?
best we could do.
Okay, but if that's the case, then why wasn't Noah Gragson suspended for wrecking Sage Carham a couple of years ago?
When was it,
So
Xfinity?
so here's the thing. So here's the
Yeah,
thing.
because
So
we've seen
number
people
one,
wreck in front of the field before. Like Bubba should have been suspended when he wrecked Larson, right?
he was suspended.
It was.
So whenever it happens in the next gen car, they get suspended. For the Xfinity side, they're at a road course, and this is what I'm going to say. This is why I think they did not suspend Dylan. Road courses and short tracks have way less speed than 1.5 miles, where it happened at
S-
what
mm,
was it, Vegas and Charlotte.
Still,
So
still,
But
with it
still, I
being
mean,
a road
Hamlin's
this
course,
hit.
was
Hamlin's hit was what, 35 Gs. That's bigger. That's a harder hit than Kurt Busch's career-ending qualifying crash at Pocono. And Hamlin said that his shoulder was hurting quite a bit from just a right side hit, flush hit, pretty much to the wall. Um, when you're putting a
well,
driver's
I'm not.
health
Hey,
and safety at
I'm not
risk,
saying that. I'm not saying that it should not have been a suspension. I think it should have been a suspension. But I'm just saying NASCAR thinks, and as Elton Sawyer said in the video, that they looked at the G's, they looked at the speed, they thought it was less egregious and not out of retaliation, which was the big point. It wasn't out of retaliation.
no,
The
it
other
was
two
out of
times,
desperation. It was out
desperation.
of
Yeah,
desperation
yeah.
because
And apparently
what
there's no
else is
rule for that,
Dylan?
where there should have been.
Well, no, because what else was Dylan supposed to do?
Just let him go by. Like,
NASCAR NASCAR put him in a situation
he
where
shouldn't
he
have
had to do
sucked
what
on the
he thought was
restart.
best.
He shouldn't have sucked on the restart. If he
well,
was better at the
Stenhouse
restart, that
and
doesn't
We
Priest
can
shouldn't
happen.
have
agree.
gotten
We
together.
can
Stenhouse and Priest
we
shouldn't have gotten
Well,
together
we're
then.
talking about
yeah.
what's in Austin Dillon's control. Austin Dillon shouldn't have choked on the restart. That wouldn't have happened. Or he could have just ran Logano high in 1 and 2, and then would have gotten the lead that way. And this is a recurring issue, all from Austin Dillon's lack of control on the restart.
No, it's ultimately a controlling issue from NASCAR for not setting the precedence before this.
Yeah, because there
NASCAR knew
shouldn't have
eventually
been an
something
avenue
like
for
this was
this
going
to
to happen.
happen.
Because imagine if this would have happened at Talladega or Daytona.
Yeah, it'd be shocking.
Yeah. Then would a suspension been warranted? Yes. At a track like Richmond, no.
Yeah, especially because it wasn't like at 150 plus. Yeah, the G's were high, but he didn't. It wasn't
He
like
hit the
out of
wall.
retaliation.
He hit the wall on the left, the passenger side of the car.
Yeah, so hey, I think it should have been a suspension if you're trying to be like, uniform with the rule, but then again, it wasn't out of retaliation, so they don't have a rule. So thank you, NASCAR, for not having a good rule book as they have,
I
and they
think
don't even share it publicly. Like it's so stupid.
I think one thing that we can all agree on together is that in terms of this playoff system and in terms of the points format, NASCAR needs to get their shit together. There's no
Yeah,
better way to say it. If
100%.
NASCAR can't get their shit together, then shit like this is going to happen all the time. I'm
Another thing,
surprised it hasn't happened like this before this.
another thing I
Yeah,
will I
for sure.
will add just to end the conversation is at least we finally know where the line is. For the
Yeah,
most part.
yeah, you can't take out two. You can take out one, bump them, but you can't hook someone for a win,
Yeah, you can't
essentially.
do a video
So
game move pretty much.
yeah, and you can't do it with wall ride either. So that's two video games move banned. But yeah, moving on. After that great conversation, we got a Michigan preview with our picks, as well as IndyCar at Gateway. So we'll take you through our picks for that. Yeah, take it away, Rob.
All right, guys, we're going to jump into our race predictions here. But before we do, uh, just want to give a special thanks to Victory Fuel, who helped keep me hydrated throughout the process of me being sick. I had an IV of their new purple potion flavor coursing through my veins to help me get better. Um, and if you would like an IV bag or a bottle or whatever they may have in this new purple potion flavor, all you got to do is go to their website and use code APEX10. That's APEX10 at checkout to save 10% on your order. Moving on, we're going to go ahead and get into our race predictions. Obviously, there's no F1 race this weekend or a Truck Series race this weekend, as the Truck Series is starting their playoff journey. But we're going to go ahead and jump into our IndyCar predictions for Gateway, and I will start with Leander. Who do you got?
I've got a good old Scotty Mac. Yeah, I'm high on ovals this year. I he's now an IndyCar driver officially. He won on an oval. So I think he gets it done at Gateway. He's been good there before, past couple years. So I'm hoping Scotty Mac can get it done.
Max, how about you?
Yeah, I got the man Joseph Newgarden, Oval Merchant, more than I think Scott McLaughlin is. Back-to-back Indy 500 winner. Uh, Even though he's had a rough season so far, he's probably the one of the best to race at Gateway. I think he has one of the most wins out of the field currently, active at least. So he is probably the best bet for Gateway for, at least a podium position. Rob, what about you?
I got to go with a guy who was the last oval winner on the schedule this season so far, and the guy who won here last year. Go ahead and give me the defending winner at Gateway, Scott Dixon, to go back to back.
Great pick. The IndyCar,
One of the best to do
arguably,
it.
we could say he's the GOAT, right?
Yeah, he's
I
he's
would say
GOAT
he's the
status.
GOAT. I would
Six
say
six
yeah.
championships. GOAT status.
He needs to get that 7 and then he'll retire.
Yeah.
That's the deal. Yeah,
But
moving on
speaking of
to
retiring,
yes.
that'll be my voice after this podcast.
Oh my god.
Moving on to
yeah,
Xfinity picks.
yeah. So I got John Hunter Nemechek is running this weekend, and he's
Defending winner.
How'd that
last
work
year's
out for
winner.
you? How did
Defend.
that work out for you last week?
Well, for Cup it
That's
didn't
Cup.
work
It's
out, but I
different.
think
Yeah.
Xfinity is gonna work out.
He
I
is
think
the
John
defending
Nemechek
winner.
will do good.
He's defending winner from
Yeah,
last year.
This
yeah.
man's a bushwhacker merchant over here.
Well, to be fair, he isn't winning every race he's doing, so he's not really bushwhacker merchant.
He's bush
I'm talking about
grazing, we'll
Leander.
say.
I'm talking about Leander. Leander
Oh.
always
Oh
looks that
yeah,
guy in the
yeah, yeah,
Xfinity
yeah.
series.
Hey man, I roll
At least I pick
guys.
a Xfinity regular. At least me and Rob pick Xfinity regulars, and my pick being Cole Custer. Think with his speed the past couple weeks, being Pocono, Indy, I think high speed ovals. Well, Pocono Triangle, but still, high speed ovals. I think Cole Custer and SHR are kind of the team to beat with Riley Herbst being another plate style track with the engine package. Based off Indy, I see Cole Custer being at least a front runner in this race.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm gonna go with a guy that a lot of people wouldn't expect me to, and it's kind of weird to pick him because I'm not his biggest supporter, obviously, and I've kind of called him out on this podcast. But doing my research, I can't deny this guy's got a feel for this track, and it's only a matter of time before he gets his first win here. I'm going with Brandon Jones. Brandon Jones,
Oh,
since 2021, has had the best average finish here and hasn't finished lower than fourth in the past three starts that he's had here.
damn, that's a sneaky good
That's
pick.
yeah, that's
That's a
a
sneaky good
interesting pick. We'll see how he does this weekend.
Yeah, and moving on to the Cup Series at Michigan.
Rob, let's go
I'm
with let's go
I'm
with
riding with the what?
let's go with Rob first because his voice. Let's get him
Oh
out
yeah,
of the
yeah,
way.
yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. Rob, who'd you pick for Cup?
So I'm going with the defending series champion Ryan Blaney. He's won here previously at Michigan, and
2021.
I wanted to go a little bit different. I could have went with Kyle Larson again this week, but for some reason, man, Penske's always run good at Michigan. Going
Well,
with Blaney.
not only Penske but Ford. Ford's always running good at this racetrack. I mean, I think back to 2019 and 2020 with Kevin Harvick winning those races, back-to-back races in 2020 and back-to-back days. Ryan Blaney winning 2021. 2022 was, gosh, who was it? Who won 2022? I can't remember. I don't remember who won 22, but Chris Buescher won 2023, and Chris Buescher, not for that reason, is my pick
It was
for
Kevin
this
Harvick.
year. Kevin, oh yeah, yeah. See, they have won the last 4 years. They've won or last 5 years. They've won 2019. They've won since 2018, right? At least this summer race. They've won 2018 Harvick, 2019 Harvick, 2020 both races Harvick, 2021 Blaney, 2022 Harvick, 2023 Buescher. So how can you bet against a Ford this year?
All right.
And Chris
So
Buescher, because he won last year, is my reason to pick him for this race this year.
so I'm going against the Ford Brigade over here. Call me Toyota Terry. I'm picking them for the weekend sweep for NASCAR. I'm picking Tyler Reddick because Tyler Reddick would have won the race if pit crew problem last year.
I
So
will
I'm going
agree with
Tyler
that.
Reddick.
I agree with
Tyler
that.
Reddick. He's 5 points away. He's going for the win and the stage points and the eventual points lead. I think he's on a roll. I think he
I
might be winning the regular season champion. You never know.
I
He's close.
I can see the vision, but I don't know if he's gonna be able to win the race. I can see him I can see him finishing second or third. He's definitely top three potential.
Hey, at least I got a good chance at finishing ahead. So I'll
Another
take it.
weekend sweep for you, potentially.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. That'll be fun.
Alrighty. Well, I think that's going to go ahead and do it for us this week, guys. Again, thank you all for tuning in to shorter and shorter episodes of this podcast every week. But we'll get a longer one out soon, eventually.
This one's gonna be longer.
But probably,
Yeah.
as I ramble on incoherently to close out the show. But For Leander, Max, and myself, that's going to do it for us this week on the Apex Bros podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. We'll catch you next week.
Never die. Gonna make it to the finish line.